sleep. Expectations from those who don't even know me. I've been questioning if the struggle is worth it, and becoming a totally different person. Doing things I promised myself I'd have never done. Stare the devil in the face and I would never run. I'm just trying to be happy when it's all said and done, and not regret a damn thing the day that heaven come. Drugs and money controlling everything in my life. Overthinking everything, just laying awake at night. My heart is beating, I'm breathing but never feel alive. No one really know what's going on up in my mind. Suicidal thoughts but I don't really wanna die. I'm about to break down, I just wanna cry. I've been feeling like my life is really on the line. If I said it, I meant it, I won't apologize. Everyone around me dying, everyone around me lying. I could really use a sign, I could really use a sign. I don't really wanna feel like this no more. I don't really wanna live like this no more. Everyone around me dying, everyone around me lying. I could really use a sign, I could really use a sign. I don't really wanna feel like this no more. I don't really wanna live like this no more. Every day used to pop pills, no one could stop me. Rest in peace, Max, swear them same things almost got me. I really wish instead of my cousin that kid shot me. The ones that I trusted was the same ones that robbed me. I'm not sad, I'm not happy, I just been getting by. Quit smoking for a while, lately been getting high. Grew apart from my family, lost all my sanity. Reading tweets of people saying they used to be a fan of me. I did a lot of things, now I'm regretting it. Sick of giving money to all of these damn therapists. If I had a rewind button, I would be pressing it. Every single minute I'm awake, I be stressing shit. They say they love to own me, that makes two of us then. Last couple years I got used to losing my friends. Screw me over once, I know that you will do it again. And I'm the only one that lose in the end, damn. I'm sick of talking, I don't even wanna write this. Had to make this song, I don't care if no one likes it. These are thoughts I have bottled up, this my therapy. I just wanted everyone to know before they bury me. Everyone around me dying, everyone around me lying. I could really use a sign, I could really use a sign. I don't really wanna feel like this no more. I don't really wanna live like this no more. Everyone around me dying, everyone around me lying. I could really use a sign, I could really use a sign. I don't really wanna feel like this no more. I don't really wanna live like this no more. I don't wanna feel like this, I don't wanna feel like this. I don't wanna live like this, I don't wanna live like this. Everyone around me dying, everyone around me lying. I could really use a sign, I could really use a sign. I don't really wanna feel like this no more. I don't really wanna live like this no more. Everyone around me dying, everyone around me lying. I could really use a sign, I could really use a sign. I don't really wanna feel like this no more. I don't really wanna live like this no more.
It's getting wild. And when I talk to people down in Texas, they're like, you're in a different world. I'm like, yeah, at this point, I just call it communist Oregon. This is not, it's not even the same Oregon I moved to. And I've only lived here like 8 or 9 years. Like, it used to be a magical place where you could talk to anybody about anything. I used to buy packs of smokes and joints, and I would just walk around and offer them to the homeless people and talk with them for an hour or two and just bullshit. You know, basically doing what I'm doing right now on podcasting, just under a bridge. And it was fun, and I didn't feel scared. Now I feel a little bit scared, and everybody else does too. So, you know, we're talking about kids not going out and living life. A lot of kids are scared of this environment because they recognize it. A lot of parents are scared to send their kids out into it. And I think even if they want to, they're like, well, better they're here than getting out there getting kidnapped or raped or molested. Or it's just so common to hear these stories on a daily basis from so many different people. Like, I could go to Cashier anywhere and I'll hear a fucking horror story about something happening locally. But where's the help? There is no help. There's only promises of a better future, a diverse future, which, meanwhile, I'm speaking with my mother, who's an elementary school teacher down in Texas. They have the diversity. They're getting all the migrants. They're speaking all the different languages, and they're not sitting there touting it like, oh, good for us, we're champions of diversity. They're like, no, we got all these migrant students from this country, so we're incorporating their culture into our school in this way, and we're learning their language, and we got new programs, and yada, yada, yada. Immigrants don't want to come to Oregon anymore. Like, most of the immigrants we're getting now are being forced out from the South because of the whole border dispute happening. So now we're seeing an influx of that too, along with the crime that comes with it. I'm just scared for the state.
Well, it certainly sounds like you've seen some pretty wild things. You talk about people's mental health needs not being met in all of this, but I don't know how they could be met when people have adopted such wild belief systems, as the ones espoused by Antifa, for example. And I mean, I'm not in that role anymore because I'm not a therapist with an unknown presence. I'm not that sort of blank slate, if you will, who could just work with anybody. Now that the cat's out of the bag, I have a reputation. I have hundreds of hours of content, maybe thousands at this point, that I've created that anybody could look at. Even when I do go back to providing psychotherapy, it'll be, there it will come, there will be an informed consent process that involved knowing that, yes, I have said all these things publicly, so you have to be okay with that. Otherwise, it might be disruptive to your therapeutic process to find out where I stand on certain issues. But, even if I were just an anonymous therapist who was pretty good at keeping my opinions to myself within that role, which I was one day in the past. Actually, I was for 10 years in the past. Well, it depends. It gradually changed as I entered the world of podcasting. Anyway, my point is, how can a therapist who's doing their best to be neutral and unbiased and to support people mentally respond to someone with such radical beliefs? I don't know that a person can hold such radical beliefs and address their mental health issues at the same time, because I think the beliefs themselves are a huge source of paranoia, of grandiosity, righteousness, polarization, division, justification for rejecting and judging your fellow human beings, in many cases, your own family members. So I think the beliefs themselves are incredibly divisive and not conducive to what we know it takes to be in good mental health. So it seems kind of like a runaway train situation with this radicalization. I wouldn't know how a therapist could help people in that position, because I think a lot of people with those types of beliefs are, they expect their therapist to share their worldview. And then where does that therapy lead, right? If there's this enmeshment and agreement going on between the therapist and the patient about the evils of capitalism and the bigotry of one's own family, and the evilness of everyone who doesn't think and vote and act politically exactly as you do, where's that going to lead?
And and this is really why on my channel I'm hoping to eventually find other people like me who are in Antifa to come and speak out, because it's like the detransitioners. You hear 1,000 stories and you're just like, they're all unique to be sure, but it's like they're all the same. There's just so much sameness. There's so many similarities that I've seen what happened to me happen with other people. And I think for people who came out on the other side, if they could just come out and speak out on what that did to them, a lot of what's coming out in therapy, like this language of PTSD and anxiety, just basically fetishizing mental health. A lot of the people I knew who are at their worst, who I'm scared will not come back, who could have come back, who I hope will come back, use PTSD and anxiety and mental health as a shield. It's not they went out and punched a cop or waved a baton or popped a tire. That's not the source of their trouble. It's the PTSD caused by the situation, by the ineptitude of the government, and by the police. It's not the fact that they went out there, did something they shouldn't have done, didn't get the results they wanted. And ultimately, what we need to realize with things like Black Lives Matter and Antifa, this was all a show. It was all a faux rebellion. It was all meant to get Donald Trump, which isn't fucking working. Good job with that. He's going to be our next president. I'm voting for his ass. This is ridiculous. It was all a smear campaign. They used us as a LARPing paramilitary arm to drive fear into local businesses, into different industries, into different institutions, into the corporations, into tech, because everyone feared reprisal. Like, when everyone put a Black Lives Matter sign over their doors during the riots. All that was lamb's blood. That was just let the angel of death pass me by. They like the Black Lives Matter signs only started coming up after the windows started getting smashed, where they're like, hey, don't fuck with me, don't fuck with me, don't fuck with me. That was the power of Antifa. They put fear into these communities, the far left, any of these groups. It's going jihad now. They have a million different names. Like I say, it's not one Antifa. All of Antifa hates each other, so they created 50 million fucking Antifas. It's, you got to realize that these organizations do not have our best interest at heart, and that they prey on mental health or lack thereof. They, in this language, it's like a cage, because whenever they're like, I have PTSD, I'm traumatized. One of the girls who was one of the top people that I went there with, who she was of Jewish heritage and she was feeling really scared by the whole situation, I watched her fall apart, and now she's non-binary, beating up people in the streets. So it's like, because she doesn't feel like a woman after that, because that's masculine energy that was put out. So now there's, and I'm seeing it with so many other different people, and just the callousness and the coldness of it all is, it's weird, but I know, given the numbers and what I've seen, that there's thousands of people out there in this country, and I'm willing to bet thousands, even if it's just 2,000 or 3,000 people who have the exact same experience as me, who need to say something. Like, I watched an Antifa, ex-Antifa member video yesterday, and it was nice. He's like, yeah, you know, I walked away from it, and they're communist, and I'm voting for Donald Trump now, and yada, yada, yada. Good talk, good 2 or 3 minutes. That's really not enough. I feel like the Antifa crowd, the ex-members, are the next wave that needs to happen, because until it comes from us, all y'all can do is speculate and live in fear and wonder, what are they up to? What are they plotting? When the reality is, it's a bunch of broken kids who are keeping each other down, who, when your friend can't leave the house because they're so scared a cop's going to recognize them, or someone's going to pull up in a KKK hood and beat their ass because they've gotten to that level of psychosis and paranoia. Well, what a good friend would do in that instance is not question your mental health, not psychoanalyze, and let me go get a pack of Trulies for you up the road, so you can stay in this dark hole and keep yourself drinking to death. And I've seen it happen with dozens of people at this point. I use a few as an example, but I meet these people. I've gone to jobs and I've met former Antifa members. I've met them in the streets. I've met active members. And it's a very particular kind of person that the public needs to learn about, and they need to learn about it now, particularly with all this jihadist intifada shit happening with the colleges. Because don't expect any graduations next year. Don't expect any graduations the year after that. Don't expect any graduation any year the year after that. Until this shit is solved and people like me can come out and are willing, I'm willing to have a cop knock on my door and ask me questions if they want. Fine, come do it. Because I would rather be thrown in fucking jail knowing that I said my fucking piece than letting all this fall to shit. But we're the missing piece of the puzzle, I feel like, and we need more.
It sounds like there's something you want the world to know about Antifa. Do you want to put that into bullet points?
It's so much. And I would just really encourage people to go to my YouTube channel and to dissect, because it takes hours. It takes hours. I'm trying to spill everything I know. I've met so many different people, so many different stories, but it's a cult. It's a cult that makes you think you're going to save the LGBT community and Black people, that ultimately just destroys them. You know, George Floyd's family didn't get any money. Trayvon Martin's family didn't get no fucking money. They bought mansions. They bought mansions, and then they encouraged more riots. And now Hamas is putting out statements with Black Lives Matter, and they're like, yeah, that George Floyd shit was fucked up. You guys should be mad about that. George Floyd wasn't murdered, guys. Go watch the full footage, the Fall of Minneapolis documentary. We were not given the full footage of the George Floyd tape until like a year ago. And I think it was about the time that Derek Chauvin got stabbed. There was talks about it, but the news never put out, here is the 20 or 30 minutes of the George Floyd incident, the thing that's burning our country down. Let's watch it in full. They never did that. They hid it. And then Derek Chauvin got stabbed in fucking prison for not even putting his knee on the man's neck. There was no knee on his neck. It was a restraining move that was in the fucking police rule book. And these were things I was never willing to accept. I called people Nazis for this. But we create martyrs. We create martyrs, and it's a cult without leaders. They basically base it on the people who die for the movement. Like at Stop Cop City, they had someone who identified as it get killed because they were all perching out in the woods like vigilantes trying to hunt police officers, tying down old white men in their cars and setting the car on fire. So the little bastard got shot. More cities burned because of that. Portland had riots because of that. And they tried to make a whole thing about pronouns and respect his pronouns. And then the news would say itself. So when people die for this cause and they go out into the streets and something happens, it doesn't matter what the real story is. What matters is the story they create, what they're able to clip together. You know, like Next Benedict turned out to be a bullshit fucking story. Here, what's his name? We have a guy here, his name will come to me in a moment, but he pulled a gun out at a high school in Eugene, and he fired a shot at the cop right in front of the school. He was trying to go and get his kid who he didn't, I'll put up Charles Landeros. He was in a custody dispute, and I think he didn't want his kid going to the school. So he shows up to the school with a gun. Cop tries to shoot him, or tries to stop him. He pulls his gun, pulls the trigger, and they shoot him. The parents go to the school and have a rally because they're concerned about what happened. Antifa shows up to that and says this was a political assassination. They tried to assassinate one of our Black Lives Matter leaders or members. He was really popular in the community, I guess. This was as I was getting out of Antifa, so I didn't learn about it till later. There's a mural for this man in downtown Eugene that his wife has come out and publicly said, what the fuck? My ex-husband was a monster. He pulled a gun out of school. He put children in danger. Why did you paint a mural for him? And he's sitting there with a megaphone. I think he's got his fist in the air, and it's a whole political thing. It doesn't matter what the truth is.
They pick the worst martyrs, don't they? I mean, George Floyd was a terrible person. He abused women, abused drugs, was in and out of prison his whole life. They picked him as a martyr. They picked this guy as a martyr. So what do you know about the connection between Antifa and Hamas? Because it sounds like you know something.
So on my channel, I have a video. It's Israel and Palestine, various perspectives, something like that. And I took information from the official Hamas website, which if you type Hamas into Google, apparently it just pops up at the top of the list. And there's basically a step-by-step plan for getting into the American education system and getting into the institutions and using social causes to pray. This is something I've only been versing myself in the last year or two because it seemed, before even the college stuff broke out, it seemed like it was going to go jihad because I try to look at things chronologically and in patterns, like gender. It didn't start with gender. It started with Black people. It started with Wiggers. It started with white people with no connection to the hood who took what they believed African Americans to be. They took their music, they took the chains, they took the white beaters, they took the baggy pants, and they projected that image onto themselves, and they became Wiggers. And then, you know, you had metrosexuality, which was more respectful, but then straight people were looking at gays being like, oh, you know, the gays, they dress kind of nice. We're going to do that. Put on some cologne, get a little crew cut, do what we're going to do. Nothing wrong with that. But then we start going into stuff like gender, which is kind of a religious replacement that's not working out. So what happens when the religious replacement doesn't work out? Well, then you go out and you try out religion. And with just step by step where things seem to be going, it seems like they don't want to accept the Christian God, they want to accept the Muslim God. Like that little non-binary girl who's just like, oh yeah, Allah doesn't see gender. I have a Quran, damn near every page is fucking gendered. Like it's a very, very gendered, structured, hierarchical system, but they just want to be the opponents of the Christians. They want to be the opponents of the United States of America, which from Antifa, a lot of the reason people are in Antifa, it's not because of George Floyd or Donald Trump. It's because of the Middle East. It's because of the fact we've been in an endless series of wars. That's what gets talked about a lot, is the fact, oh, we're in Afghanistan, now we're in Iraq, now we're going to Iran. Like, when you're in an endless series of wars and you feel like there's no way out and you feel like your country is just expanded to the point where you have military bases all over the planet, which is basically our #1 producer of fucking climate change, is all the fucking oxygen or all the shit they're putting out into there all over the fucking planet. Like, people feel hopeless, and it adds to that hopelessness and that isolation. But now that shit's getting worse in the Middle East, now that we're going to Iran, now that the Russian subs are right outside Florida, that existentialism has grown to where kill the Christians. I mean, look what happened at the Nashville church shooting. Kill those kids, those little white devils. Because what more do you have to lose at this point? You could die tomorrow. That fear was there even with George Floyd and Donald Trump, but now it's real. You could die tomorrow, and everybody knows it. Everybody knows we can get a nuke dropped on our head tomorrow, so people have less fucks to give. That's why we're seeing more stories of people just standing out in the streets. It's just a lazy mass shooting at this point. They're standing by a highway, just bop, bop, bop. Like people just don't give a shit.
Place?
That one might have been in Detroit. There was one in particular where I saw the footage of. I'll upload it and clip it in with the channel, but it's something I've been seeing a couple more times too, where the violence is just getting lazy. It's just people twacked out and doing shit and flailing and throwing themselves at the world, but also with that, they're going to start getting organized. You have all these shooters, you have all these radical extremists, you have these people willing to take up arms. Somebody's going to come in and tell these kids, hey, you don't have to do this alone. And Hamas seems to be, at least for now, I don't think they're going to fill that role. I don't think these kids are going to join Hamas. I think we're going to see some new factions emerge. We're going to see some new outgrowth from Antifa, from Black Lives Matter. And it's going to become very new. It's going to become very outwardly communistic. It's going to, I mean, we're already starting to see it. It's praising the military action of taking back colonial land. So in hindsight, it's like, oh yeah, this is what decolonizing looks like, huh? And they want it. They really, really, really want it. There's a lot of kids that really want it. And they need to realize what they're going to lose. Because a lot of these kids, as much as they may want to kill their parents, love their parents. As much as they may want to burn down their towns, love their towns. And we all feel it when the wildfires come. We all feel it when the natural disasters come. I feel like that's what God's trying to tell us, because in those moments we fucking humble ourselves. 3 weeks I had without power back in January during the winter storm, I came back to that. I was on YouTube less. I was on podcasts less. I feel a little less invested in shit. And I was just like, huh, you know, life's a fragile fucking thing. And when the wildfires are burning, no one's out there rioting. Everyone's trying to get their dogs out and trying to get the last bit of food and trying to escape the smoke. So it's like, this is going to create more of that. This is going to create war and famine and death. Get ready for a future of hellfires and missiles. This is what it's been invited. And that's not me saying it. That's Joe Biden, because they put a goddamn fucking sub outside of Florida with nuclear weapons and simultaneously said, this is our terms of agreement for ending the war. And what did Joe Biden do? He signed a goddamn 10-year security agreement with Ukraine. We're locked in. So for people listening to this, do you really want to make it worse, or do you want to make it better? That's really what it is at the end of the day. This is a very existential thing. This is become life or death. This is if people in Antifa and the far left and former neo-Nazis, jihadists, all these extremist groups, if people don't come out and start showing some balls and running their mouth, more people are going to die. The more you run your mouth, the less people die. That's kind of how I'm putting it in my head, at least as a reassuring thought, because let's not bullshit ourselves that this is World War III. The government can lie to us all they want, but Sweden and Europe and the UK and the Middle East, China, they're telling their people, get the food ready, get the ammo ready, stock up. What are they telling us to do? Fight. Spend your money on drugs, spend your money on alcohol, consume, barely have any gas in your tank to fucking leave if this shit goes down. Destroy your mental health. Black Lives Matter and Antifa, people who would have stood up to what's happening at the colleges right now and these jihadists, they were taken out of the fight by the faux rebellion that was based around the death of George Floyd. People who would have been there saying, hey, these are Jewish students and we know where this fucking goes. Don't fuck with them. You can have your rights and you can have your say, but this kill the Jew shit has to fucking end. All those kids are at home drunk right now, or committing suicide, or addicted to drugs, not doing a goddamn thing with their time when they could be speaking out. But that's what it was meant to do. That took everybody out of the fight. The youth of America that had that fire's gone. It's been replaced. And a lot of them are fooling themselves that this shit isn't even happening, because so long as you don't pay attention, it's not real. But it's real, and they need to be out there. Like that's kind of the message of my channel, which I didn't expect going into it, is kind of feeling like some of these people should be reactivated. Tear up your old flags, put down your old ways, heal your family struggles, heal your mind, heal your body and soul, and get back out there. And don't fight, don't engage in violence, don't combat the police, but tell people, like, try to have a conversation, counter this. Like, they're going after the Jews. That's what this is. And I get Israel's committing war crimes and genocide, 100%. That doesn't change our situation here in America, nor does our situation in America change anything that's going to happen over there. But we can at least try to save each other.
Like, where were you when we would ride? Where were you? Who the fuck you know go harder? And I put that on my unborn daughter. Who the fuck you know go harder? Who the fuck you know go harder than all? Who the fuck you know go harder? And I put that on my unborn daughter. Who the fuck you know go harder than y'all? Where were you when them street lights come on? Why you ain't go outside? Where were you when we were down bad? I nearly lost my mind. Where were you when they shot me in the street and I laid there and almost died? Where were you when we were all the way live, dumped up and on the other side? Where were you when it was do or die? Boy, where were you when we would ride? Why you ain't pick up your phone that night? Like, where were you when we would slide? Why when we used to get it cracking? Why you go and run and hide? Where were you when we would ride? Boy, where were you when we would ride? Remember that coke house, dope house, boy, when the police ran inside? Remember when the whole team fell under that charge and I swore that I'd do fine? Remember when they killed D, I couldn't bring him back? The whole street shootout where they almost got black. Remember when that car jack turned into a car crash? We stole a drop top and drove into the shine. Remember when they went and killed Dish? And I know I couldn't let that slide. Remember when they killed that me and God and Bo let that big thing ride? Remember when Jay shot all them cops and I heat down till 25? 15 of us in the hotel room, we used to switch clothes to go outside. My cousin got out and he said I had a plan. A few years later we would count 100 grand. Boy, we were tripping. You should have seen our eyes. Remember them stick up hit us, boy, when we had to steal now to survive. We used to kick a door down, then go and rock a show, both in the same night. We shot it out right there in the street. I'd walk on stage with gunpowder on me. That was way before God turned into a junkie. Sometimes I just ask why. Remember I was out robbing bareface, cause boy, I wanted to die. Boy, I wanted to die. Boy, I wanted to die. But it's all over and that thing's empty. Why go and check yours? You got a full semi. When they say pay the butcher, I drop his woman a bag. A few hours later an inmate is stabbed. Do you recall way back in the day when I used to hold the thing from the side? My ass was on the news back in 2005. Where were you when we would ride? Where were you when we would ride? Boy, where were you when we would ride? Where were you when we would ride? Boy, where were you when we would ride? Where were you when we would ride? Boy, where were you when we would ride? Where were you when we would ride? Boy, where were you when we would ride? Bruce taught me how to cook. Big D taught me how to slide. Dane taught me how to shape. Brother taught me how to lie. Carson taught me how to save money. Woman taught me to connide. My daddy ain't teach me a goddamn thing, so today I'm cold as ice. Who the fuck you know go harder? And I put that on my unborn daughter. Who the fuck you know go harder? Who the fuck you know go harder than all? Who the fuck you know go harder? And I put that on my unborn daughter. Who the fuck you know go harder than all? I don't blame you though. Some ghosts won't even follow me where I go. So it's all good, bitch.